Welcome to Taming the Stress Monster, a training for early childhood and education teachers. Do you often feel like you're at the end of your rope? Does life tend to hand you a lot of lemons? Do you get burnt out easily? If so, then this presentation will help you to understand and identify your stressors and how they can be impacting your health. By the end of this training, you will be able to define stress and recognize what triggers it, understand the effects of stress, assess your current stress levels, identify how to become more stress resilient, and learn techniques for preventing stress and implementing relaxation techniques. Stress is a reaction to any change in our environment or in our lives. You may see different definitions for stress because it tends to be a relative term and different for each individual. The American Medical Association definition is any interference that disturbs a person's mental or physical well-being. Some stress can actually be good for us. Good stress is referred to as eustress. Eustress can be things like getting a promotion, getting married, having a baby, or going on vacation. Good stress helps us to meet deadlines, motivates us, and helps us to focus our energy. Bad stress is called distress. This could be things such as divorce, death, getting fired from a job. Too much distress over time can cause serious health effects. When we experience stress, our bodies go into the fight or flight response. Fight or flight has been passed down to us since the caveman days. It's a form of survival. It is an inborn automatic response to a perceived threat. When a saber-toothed tiger was attacking the caveman's cave, they got the fight or flight response. We get the same thing today, only our body doesn't know the difference from life-threatening or not. Studies show that today the average person has about 60 fight or flight responses each day. What happens to our bodies when we experience fight or flight? Remember, back in the caveman days, it was a saber-toothed tiger. However, the modern saber-toothed tiger might be getting into an argument with a coworker or being stuck in traffic. Fight or flight is hardwired into our brains. It comes from the hypothalamus, which initiates a release of 1,400 chemicals, which includes adrenaline, insulin, epinephrine, and cortisol, into our body to allow us to either fight or run. These chemicals continue in our bodies for hours even after the stressor has passed. When we experience fight or flight, our breathing rate increases. Blood is pushed into our muscles and limbs, which require extra energy for running and fighting. Our pupils dilate. Our awareness intensifies. Our sight becomes sharper. Our impulses quicker. Our perception of pain diminishes. Our immune system mobilizes with increased activation. We become prepared, both physically and psychologically, for fight or flight. Fight or flight is responsible for mothers lifting cars off their children who are trapped underneath. When you're in constant fight or flight mode, it wears on your body and causes many negative health implications. Take a second to think about how your body responds to stress. Do you find yourself with a sore jaw from clenching your teeth? Do you experience headaches, fatigue? Let's take a look at how stress can affect our bodies in a negative way. Let's look at some statistics on stress. The American Psychological Association reports that 1 in 4 workers have taken a mental health day off from work to cope with stress. The American Institute of Stress reports that 60% of job absences are due to stress. 40% of job turnover is due to stress. In the workplace, stress is related to lost hours due to absenteeism, reduced productivity, and workers' compensation benefits. This has cost the American industry more than $300 billion annually. OSHA has also declared stress a hazard of the workplace. In addition, 43% of adults experience adverse health effects from stress. 75 to 90% of visits to the doctor are for stress-related conditions. People who are stressed are 2 times more likely to get a cold or the flu. A study in the UK exposed 266 people to a common cold virus and tracked who actually became sick. Only 28% of the people exposed got sick if they had little or no stress. However, 42% of people became sick if they experienced high stress. The long-term health effects of stress could be high blood pressure, more prone to strokes or heart disease, a suppressed immune system, and twice as likely to get a cold or the flu. Exam time at colleges, the infirmaries are all filled up, not because they're faking to get out of a test, but because they are stressed out. Stress has been linked to the 6 leading causes of death, which include heart disease, cancer, lung ailments, accidents, cirrhosis of the liver, and suicide. When we're dealing with stress, our body experiences physical effects, behavioral effects, as well as psychological effects. Here are just a couple of the physical effects that we could experience. Some of these include ulcers, weight gain, headaches, neck pain, nervous tics, hair loss, and even increased blood pressure. Here are a couple of the behavioral effects we can experience. Some of them include loss of appetite, lack of energy, increased drug or alcohol abuse. And finally, there are the psychological effects of stress. Depression, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and anxiety are just a couple. In your assignment packet, you have a section to list your top 10 stressors. Please pause the presentation and complete that list now. When you are finished, you may resume watching. Here is a list of the top 10 stressors in general society. Number 10, transportation. Number 9, education. Number 8, scheduling. 7, legal issues. 6, dealing with aging parents. 5, parenting and handling family matters. 4, career pressures. 3, marriage or relationships. 2, health issues. And the number 1 stressor are finances. Working with children can be incredibly rewarding and enjoyable, yet at the same time, demands of the job can cause serious stress. The top 8 stressors of working in early childhood are number 8, lack of communication, number 7, noise, number 6, feeling unsupported in your role, number 5, having limited resources, number 4, high expectations of families you're working with, number 3, time constraints, number 2, excessive paperwork, and the number 1 reason of stress in the childcare field is low income. Included in your handouts are stress tests. They include the life stress test and the professional life stress scale. These are to help you assess what your current stress levels may be and how that may be affecting your health. You may pause the presentation to take the assessments, and when you're finished, you may resume watching. Keep in mind, however, that situations that cause stress in some people may not cause it in others. Stress is all about perception. What may be stressful for me may not be stressful for you. Imagine yourself right now sitting in rush hour traffic. How do you feel? Are you stressed? Is the person who's sitting in the car next to you more stressed than you or less stressed than you? Now imagine yourself returning from a wonderful Caribbean vacation and just finding out that the airline has lost your luggage. How do you feel? What about returning home after a long, hard day at work with a full schedule in front of you and hearing your children constant bickering in the background? Or how about Friday afternoon, you're getting ready to leave work for the weekend and you get a last-minute assignment at work from your boss? The way our bodies react to stress greatly depends on how we perceive it. Also, it depends on how resilient to stress we are. Being resilient to stress requires you to understand 3 things: commitment, challenge, and control. Being committed means maintaining a passion for what you're doing. When the children are stressing you out at work, remember why you got into the childcare field in the first place. People who have a commitment to their job, spouse, etc., have not forgotten why they do what they do. Challenge is another requirement to being stress resilient. Look at stressful situations as a challenge, a learning experience, an opportunity to better yourself. Instead of allowing difficult situations to stress you out, view them as something to master and overcome. And finally, control is required. This does not mean that you are controlling. This is personal control, where you have an attitude that focuses on what you have control over and what you do not. Refer back to your list you made earlier of your top 10 stressors. Looking at the list more closely, put a star next to each one that you have no control over. You can pause the presentation and complete that now. When you're finished, you may resume the presentation. You may want to include people in there too, because as much as we'd like to think we have control over others, the only one we have control over is ourselves. Now that you know what stresses you, you can identify what you have control over. You can begin to take steps to prevent stress in your life. The Chinese symbol for crisis is a good example of how to view stressors. It combines the symbols for danger and opportunity, meaning that you should find the opportunity in every problem. Every crisis will change you. The experience may leave you a better person. For every problem, there is always a negative side and a positive side. Begin to start focusing on the positives. To try this, start by evaluating the problem. Ask yourself if this will matter a year from now. Will it matter 5 years from now? So far, you've learned what stress is, what happens to our bodies when we get stressed, and how it causes negative health implications. We've also covered how to be more resilient to stressors by remembering our commitments, viewing stressors as challenges, and identifying what we have control over. Now we are going to look at some techniques for handling stress and how to implement relaxation strategies. Before we get into the techniques of relaxing, let's look more at how we can prevent stress by changing our thoughts and behaviors. Very often, through our ways of thinking and behaving, we unknowingly create our own stress. We tend to focus on the negative instead of the positive. When something bad has happened, you may tell yourself that you should have done something differently, and you may linger on blaming yourself. This only leads to guilt, which leads to stress. Instead, understand that the past is the past. You cannot change it. Try focusing on the present, what you can do now instead of what you should have done. It also helps to remember that not everything is a catastrophe. Realize that things happen. Life happens. Stop thinking to yourself, what if? What if there's a DPW inspection today? What if there's a fire drill during nap time? What if the parent will be upset that their child got paint on their shirt? If you're always asking yourself, what if, you may be setting yourself up twice for stress. Once when you're thinking about it, and then again if it does happen. Essentially, it is up to you if you're going to view something as stressful or not. Things alone are not stressful, it's your perception of them that makes them stressful. Keep a positive outlook on life. Groucho Marx once said, "Each morning when I open my eyes, I say to myself, I, not events, have the power to make me happy or unhappy today. I can choose which it shall be. Yesterday is dead, tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. I have just one day, today, and I'm going to be happy in it." Another way of preventing stress is by having a good inner dialogue with yourself. Inner dialogue are the things you say to yourself, your thoughts or your mind chatter. Having a good inner dialogue is also known as cognitive restructuring. These thoughts are often automatic, and the negative ones may stem from our childhood or bad experiences in our lives. We are much harder on ourselves and more critical of ourselves more than anyone else. Learn to have a better inner dialogue with yourself by beginning to tune out these negative thoughts. There is a Chinese proverb that defines this well. Tension is who you think you should be, relaxation is who you are. Whenever stress reduction is mentioned, you will always hear that you should eat well and exercise. Eating well does not mean dieting. Have you ever been on a diet? It's stressful. Instead, eat healthier and make better choices. This is easy if you follow the 80-20 rule. If 80% of what you eat is good for you, then 20% can be what you want to eat. For example, for lunch you may have a salad with low-fat dressing, a slice of whole wheat bread, an apple, water, and a cookie. The cookie may be your 20%. Then you don't have the guilt, which brings on stress. Exercise. Sometimes this word alone can stress people out, and there's many excuses for not exercising. I don't have time. It hurts my back. I can't afford to join a gym, and so on. However, exercise will reduce the risk of heart disease, breast, colon, and bladder cancer, osteoporosis. It treats depression and stress. The easiest way to exercise is to just take a walk. Take time away from the phone, the TV, and the computer. A lot of times, when you have difficult tasks to do, or a task that you don't want to do but have to do, you may put it off until last. Don't procrastinate.